Orlando Magic fans, welcome in to Black and Blue and Orlando Magic podcast, our fourth episode here. Last night, after the Magic's disheartening collapse, shall we say, against the Golden State Warriors, talked about the game, I thought the Magic maybe weren't being coached at the highest level. And I really think looking back, that might have been more out of frustration than anything else. And so we're going to dive into the job that Jamahl Mosely is doing for the Orlando Magic and talk about are they being coached well? Are they being coached well enough? Should Magic fans be happy with Jamahl Mosely? Again, I said last night, I don't think they're always being coached at the highest level. I said that after watching a third quarter where bad shots were devastating. I'm like, where's the timeout? Where's the regroup? Upon further review, I think for the most part, Jamahl Mosely is doing a great job as the Magic's head coach, and he has been for quite some time. He's a defensive coach, and the Magic are still, from a rating perspective, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. For the most part, I think that they get the job done on the defensive side of the ball, and they execute what Jamahl Mosely is asking them to execute. I also think he runs a lot of nice offensive sets, like he does. And when they're executing at a high level, they do a pretty good job. But the bottom line is this is a team that's scared to shoot the three. They suck at shooting the three. And no one can create shots for themselves or others outside of Paolo and Franz right now. But when I was being real critical of Mosely, it wasn't about the defense, really. It wasn't about the offensive sets. It was really about the kind of game management in the third quarter, which I do think could have been better. So the Magic called a timeout with 9 minutes left in the third quarter, up by 5, right? Real bad 3 minutes. They were up by 14 at the half. They should have been up by 17, but Curry, of course, made a half-court shot, buzzer beater. They call a timeout with 9 minutes left, up by 5. They've gotten outscored by 9 points in the first 3 minutes of the third quarter. There is not another timeout called for 3.5 minutes, which obviously isn't a ton of time, but what is happening during those 3.5 minutes? The Magic are getting absolutely dominated. And look, Wendell Carter, looking back at this one, he was the catalyst for how poor that 3.5 minutes went. And by the end of that 3.5 minutes, when it's 5:28 left in the third, the Magic are now down 82-75. So, entering the third up 14, you're down 7 halfway through the third, just over halfway through the third. It was awful, awful, awful. So Wendell, right after that timeout, good Lord, has a tech, an offensive foul, another foul, and another foul. Why is he still in the game at that point? Like, that guy needs to get off the floor ASAP. He is costing the team, without question. So that, I think, you could point to. I think you could point to the team was taking too many bad shots during that stretch as well. Paolo was taking some unnecessarily difficult shots. I think a couple other guys were as well. So I think that part of the game maybe could have been managed a little bit better. Get in their ear, call another timeout quicker, get Wendell off the floor. So that little stretch, and that's all it takes to lose to a team like the Warriors when you're the Magic and you don't have a lot of shooting. And look, the refs were atrocious down the stretch last night. We know that. But you can't let that define a game for you. You just can't. There's no reason the Magic should have been in the situation they were in late in the game where they were having to scratch and claw to try to get their way back into that game. They were having to heart and hustle it, right? And they're not built for that. They're not built to go toe-to-toe with a team like the Warriors, or especially the Cavs, like in a crunch time situation. Because again, outside of Paolo and Franz, who's stepping up to make a shot? Overall, I think this is more of a Weltman issue, a roster construction issue, and an injury issue, right? Jalen Suggs obviously not being out there makes it very difficult for the Magic, but Jamahl Mosely basically has to be perfect for them to be in games like this against really good teams. And make no mistake about it, the Warriors are playing great basketball right now. Ever since Jimmy Butler came back and Steph Curry having the night of his life, you have guys like Wendell losing their minds for a stretch. You have no shooting. Again, Steph just unconscious. Yeah, that makes it difficult for a coach to perform at his best. It does. And I don't think that that 3.5 minute stretch was his best. And that's all it took, really. Look, I think if they can get Suggs back, when will they get him back? I don't know. You know, this quad contusion, apparently no joke for Jalen Suggs, but he can mitigate some issues with his athleticism, his energy, especially his defensive prowess, his ability to kind of shoot from long range, his playmaking. If they can get him back, I think they can start to compete in a game like this against the Warriors. I don't think that even with Suggs, they're taking down the Cavs, right? But if they can get him back at some point, he's still not doing any contact work. Get him back, and I think you can start to be more competitive and maybe win games against teams that have a better record than you. Maybe not teams like the Cavs, but I think with Suggs, they might have been able to beat the Warriors. But they have a 3 game homestand, 7 game homestand in total, 3 games left in the homestand. They need to win these games, right? They've got the Raptors twice. Um, if they don't, I think it might be time to start worrying about, you know, obviously at this point, they're probably going to be in the play in. I don't think you're catching Detroit the way they're playing versus the way the Magic's playing and the record situation. Detroit's got a nice little lead on them. And then you've got right behind you the Hawks and the Heat. Heat not playing great since they traded Jimmy. The Hawks are okay. You play the Hawks twice down the stretch. Um, I think you should be able to hold on to the 7th seed. But if you can't win these games against the Bulls and the Raptors, might be time to start really worrying and panicking about the Magic and their opportunity to make the playoffs. And I think the goal right now should just be to have a competitive playoff series, to win the play-in, have a competitive playoff series in round one where you're not completely embarrassed. I don't know what else you could ask for at this point because this is not a championship team. This is not a team going to the Eastern Conference Finals. They need more shooting. They need more playmaking in a big way. And they do get it at times from some guys outside of Franz and Paolo, but not nearly consistently enough. They don't get the shooting that they were hoping for from some guys, veterans. They don't get the playmaking that they were hoping for from some guys. So uh, they've got to regroup in a big way this offseason. Obviously, 21 games left now. I think that the Magic are in a spot where they can kind of hold the fort and not regress this year, not have like a major regression if if they can focus and beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, which is something they have done well throughout Jamahl Mosley's time in Orlando. I think they will continue to do that. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. It's all Magic all the time. Y'all have a good one.